So, Rudyard, there are some folks in Campbellford, Ontario, clucking over the right to raise chickens. That's right, chickens in their backyard. And I understand you have an urban farming story to share with us, too.
Yeah, look, Tasha, I had not only chickens, but I had pigs. I had a beautiful sow with piglets when I was growing up as a little kid. Now, mind you, this was in Caledon, Ontario, so it was outside of downtown Toronto. But I'll just say, it was really meaningful as a child to have the opportunity to husband animals, to understand where you get your food from, as opposed to shrink-wrapped, at my local Loblaws.
Did you eat the pig when all was done?
I couldn't, and I still have problems eating bacon.
I see. Well, trauma, childhood trauma. See, this is what happens when you get too close to animals. All right, to hash out whether there are limits to property rights, whether you should be able to raise animals like pigs or chickens in an urban environment, we're joined now by Liz White. She is a board member of the Animal Alliance of Canada. She joins us here in studio. And Chris Schaefer is a lawyer with the Canadian Constitution Foundation. Now, Chris, let me start with you because you are actually spearheading this court challenge. You're defending these folks in Campbellford who are raising chickens in their backyard. Why has the Canadian Constitution Foundation taken up this fight?
It's rather simple, Tasha. The issue here is not, and you're familiar with the Canadian Constitution Foundation, we usually engage in charter or constitutional issues. Here, it's a little bit different. We're looking at officially induced error. What happened here is our clients, the Balkers, went to their town council and said, hey, look, we'd like to set up a chicken coop, and we want to do it legally. We want to follow all the rules. And they were told, here's a sheet of paper, and here's are the animals that you can't keep, such as crocodiles, elephants, etc. And chickens were not on that list, so they got the go-ahead, the green light. They proceeded, built the chicken coop, did everything by the books, and yet they were told later by the city council, no, this isn't legit, and you have to shut down your chicken coop and get rid of your chickens. And the point the Canadian Constitution Foundation wants to make is, look, laws at all levels of government are passed every day. Each citizen can't possibly know every law, and when they rely on their own governments to tell them the law, and in this instance, the government didn't even know their own law. This is not right. It's not fair to the little person on the street that you and I, the mom and pops in Campbellford and folks in other places around Canada.
Liz, as part of the problem here, also too much NIMBYism, not in my backyard, or in this case, not in my neighbor's backyard. I mean, these are chickens. They're harmless animals. And again, young people, families, you learn a lot about where your food comes from, about how to care for an animal. Why is this a bad thing?
Well, I think if you look at where our food really comes from, it comes from massive factory farm operations and massive slaughterhouses. I've been sitting in a court case with Maple Lodge Farms, and they process somewhere in the order of 350 to 500,000 chickens a day. So I think if you really want to teach your family about where your food comes from, you might want to actually visit some slaughterhouses and some factory farm barns to see how animals are really raised. In the debate that we had in the city of Toronto, where people do have chickens, but it is quite illegal that they have chickens, the bylaw is quite clear that chickens are not allowed. There is discussion about what impacts we have in doing that on neighbors when we have properties that are very, very tiny, when we know that not everybody is going to care for the chickens in the best way, where we know that they attract animals like rats and mice and raccoons and coyotes and all sorts of other animals which people find frightening and difficult to deal with. And so in those particular situations, the City of Toronto thankfully said, no, thank you, we don't want to have chickens here. It's just going to cost us too much money to try and mitigate.
Yeah, Chris, let me ask you, I understand the point you're making that the government told these people, or the city told these people what the law was, and that as a result they feel misled. But isn't the root issue here, a chicken may not be a crocodile, but doesn't a city have a right to tell people you can't raise these kinds of animals in your backyard in an urban environment?
Yes, you raise a point that the city municipal bylaws and municipal politicians have the ability to do that under their governing legislation. You're right, they do. But the point I'll make is if you look at other cities such as Vancouver, Guelph, Niagara Falls, Quinte West, otherwise known as Trenton, Ontario, they have all allowed different forms, highly regulated, so maybe limit the number of chicks you have, limit the size of the land upon which you put the chicken coop. It's very strictly regulated and licensed. The point is that they allow, different cities in Canada and North America allow these chicken coops to exist in urban environments.
That's an interesting point, Liz. I want to bring to Liz. I mean, it's just arbitrary to say, oh, guess what, you can keep a Vietnamese pot-bellied pig as a pet, but you can't keep a chicken. Or you can have a Newfoundland dog that weighs 180 pounds and is like a bear, but why are we making this distinction and being prejudicial, discriminatory towards the poor little chicken?
I'm really glad you brought up the pot-bellied pig, because I sat in this very studio 15 years ago on the debate about whether everybody should be allowed to have pot-bellied pigs in urban environments. And in fact, that was an unmitigated disaster. And in fact, most municipalities have really rethought that. And many of those pigs, I used to talk to people who rescued, ended up in slaughterhouses when they were supposedly supposed to be people's pets. And so I think when you talk to people who have chickens in their backyard, and I was just on a conference call with people who are dealing with this in California, they actually want the right to slaughter. They want the right to have pigs, goats, sheep, lambs, chickens. They want to raise them, and they want the right to slaughter them in their backyard.
That's a whole farm.
So this is the direction we're going. If council says it's okay to chickens, then why not goats? And why not lambs? And why not a variety of other animals like pot-bellied pigs? And the answer to that is because in densely urban environments like Toronto, the role of council is to try and negotiate between neighbors who do something that another neighbor doesn't like, and we try and mitigate against that. And that's exactly what that animal bylaw is about.
That's what we're going to have to leave it there. Chris, just very quickly, when might you expect a decision in this case? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, we just found out today that our clients were summoned to court on February 23rd, so there will be probably at that point the court will set a court date, and there'll be other scheduling set for production of evidence and what have you.
All right, Chris Schaefer, Liz White, thanks very much for sharing your views on this issue today.